Hello and welcome back to the Waiting Native Chronicles. What I'm going to do today is a little bit out of the norm. I'm going to get something off my chest. As a man married to an Indigenous woman, this is hits close to home because, well, we have female descendants, my wife and I, going right down to grandchildren. And there's been a bit of information released recently from StatsCan that really puts a nail in the coffin of this whole hoax that's been going on about murdered and missing Indigenous women. And I'd like to get this out in the open because it's such a cynical political manipulation of the Indigenous people in Canada that it's something just has to be said. Early on, a few years ago, there was a great big hullabaloo about doing something about murdered and missing Indigenous women. And really, there is something that has to be done about it. There was a lot of people in politics crying for setting up a commission to study this issue of missing Indigenous women. And a lot of the Indigenous community, I recall, saying, look, we don't need a commission. We need to have some action done. We know what the problems are, and let's start doing something about it. But no, they want to set up a commission because then they can make real hay out of this politically and help them win the election. So they created a commission, and then they came back with all these conclusions that this is essentially an act of genocide by the Canadian people, racist genocide. That's why we're having so many Indigenous women go missing and killed. It's a racist system and so on and so on. So, well, now StatsCan has come out with actual figures that really put the lie to a lot of this nonsense. The StatsCan figures show that of the missing or murdered Indigenous women in Canada, 86% of those murders come from the Indigenous community. Mostly from men, of course. There are some women that also murder other women, but mainly from men within the Indigenous community. 86%. Does that sound like genocide to you? Then there's also pointed out that the rate of solved crimes or arrests when it comes to these missing and murdered Indigenous women, that the rate of arrests are 87%. Among the rest of the population, it's 90%. So, there's a little bit of difference there, but 3% is almost like a statistical variation that can be explained. So it's essentially the same in terms of arrest rates and crime solved. When it comes to which groups are doing the harm and the violence to the Indigenous female part of our nation, it's occurring among Indigenous people, 86%. Does that sound like genocide to you? There's another aspect of this also pointed out. They're saying, well, people that get convicted of murdering Indigenous women, they get a lighter jail sentence than people who kill white women or non-Indigenous women. So there you go. That's proof that the system is racist, right? The courts are racist, everything. But that forgets something here, because the Supreme Court of Canada came up with a resolution that when it comes to Indigenous people, when they get convicted of serious crimes like murder, that they mandated such people should receive a slightly lighter sentence because of their background and the other challenges they face. So, okay, we're taking that into consideration. Now, feed that into the fact that 86% of the people murdering Indigenous women are Indigenous men, mostly. They wind up in the court system. They get lighter sentences. Well, doggone. It's true. The people who murder Indigenous women are getting lighter sentences because they're mostly from the Indigenous community. This is not really all that terribly hard to understand. I think the Indigenous community should be incensed at the way they've been manipulated, cynically manipulated by the Liberal government. The government is not at all concerned with helping Indigenous women and solving this problem. They're concerned with winning elections. If they wanted to reduce the number of Indigenous women murdered or gone missing, Everybody knows what has to be done, and it's not at the feet of racism and nonsense like that. These are just manufactured situations, and they make the country look bad. They don't solve the problem, and they just set people against each other, basically creating boogeymen, quite literally. So I wanted to just kind of bring that out, especially since these StatsCan figures have come out recently. I think we have to start looking with a more critical eye at what the media is putting out towards us in service of the liberal government and the whole woke agenda. It's really getting bad, and hopefully one of these days these stunts that the liberals pull stop working and people open their eyes up to what's really happening, especially the Indigenous community, because they're being cynically used. Well, that's what I have to say now. From the Way of Native Chronicles, I hope you have a nice day, and I'll catch you next time. This is the first time I've tried recording the video in this way, just doing a little walk around. Let me know what you think, and put your comments in the comments section if you have something to say about it. It's a worthwhile discussion to start having. So God bless, and catch you next time. Did you like this video? If you did, I think you're gonna like this one right over here. So check it out. And I appreciate your subscribing if you haven't done so already. Remember to do that while you're watching this next video. Click like, it all helps us out for this channel. Catch you next time.